Alright, so I'm not going to waste any more time. Yeah, there's sound in the background because my window's open because it's 80 degrees and it's hot. So deal with it. Alright, so let me begin. I'm going to read real quick. Edom as a nation consisting of the descendants of Esau, twin brother of Jacob and son of Isaac and Rebekah, was located in the southeast of Judah, in a rugged mountainous region which is now the southwestern part of the kingdom of Jordan. Edom is sometimes referred to as Esau in Malachi chapter 1 verse 3. It's referred to as Idumea in Isaiah chapter 34 verse 5, and Mount Seir in Ezekiel chapter 35 verse 3. All of these names are interchangeable, referring to the same nation, Edom. Genesis chapter 36 describes the rapid growth of Edom. Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 5 informs us that Edom's territory was not part of the land promised to Israel and never would be. Meddle not with them, for I will not give you of their land, no, not so much as one breadth, because I have given Mount Seir unto Esau for a possession. And I want you guys to remember that word possession as how the Israelites back then were writing that word style, and also the definition was just the same as possession in Amos they talk about. So it's funny how they talk about for a possession. They had a common meaning for that. So I want you guys to remember that. This is Ezekiel chapter 35. Estimated date of writing is 593 to 570 BC. It says, Moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it, and say to it, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against you. I'll stretch out my hand against you. I'll make you most desolate. I will lay your cities to waste, and you shall be desolate. Then you shall know that I am the Lord. Because you have had ancient hatred, and have shed the blood of the children of Israel by the power of the word, by the power of the sword at the time of their calamity, when their calamity came to an end, there, as I live, says the Lord, I will prepare you for blood, and the blood shall pursue you, since you have not hated blood, therefore blood shall pursue you. Thus I will make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it the one who leaves and the one who returns. And I will fill its mountains with the slain on your hills and in your valleys and in all your ravines. Those who are slain by the sword shall fall. Funny how these destruction prophecies are specific to an actual place, unlike the Black Hebrew Israelites view that claims Edom is only where the Edomites dwell, which is, their claim is everywhere. They're Europeans, they're whites, they're in Europe, they're in America, they're everywhere. Two different sides. I'm only reading Bible and showing you what these prophets meant and what they were saying. So let me continue. And yet they say, they're following the Bible. No. You're making the Bible follow your interpretations of it. Some completely different. So let me continue. It says, Ezekiel condemned the nation of Edom, saying, Thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity. Ezekiel chapter 35 verse 5. Throughout ancient history, the Edomites manifested their hatred against Hebrews, as shown by the refusing Moses and his people permission to pass through Edomite territory in Numbers chapter 20 verses 14 through 22. However, in the time of Elijah, the Edomites joined in a military alliance with Israel and Judah in 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 9. Later, Judah defeated Edom in war in 2 Chronicles chapter 25 verse 5 through 12. The major prophecies against Edom are found in Isaiah 34, Jeremiah 49, verse 7 through 22, Ezekiel 25, verse 12 through 14, and verse 35, 1 through 15, and the book of Obadiah. Israel prophesied of God's judgment against Edom around 700 BC. Remember that, please. While Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Obadiah all delivered their prophecies of impending doom upon Edom around the year 600 BC. It will make sense to look for the fulfillment of these prophecies against Edom in that general time period of history. However, some have proposed that these prophecies against Edom are yet still unfulfilled, and that their fulfillment will take place in our generation in the early 21st century. There are two big problems with this theory. One, the Edomites no longer exist. It is impossible to punish a people who have already disappeared from the face of the earth many centuries ago, thousands of years ago. The prophet Malachi was writing around 400 BC. He speaks of God's judgment of Edom as having already taken place. Now, once again, this ain't my words. These are Malachi's words. The people that actually around back then. He said, "And I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness." Interesting. I want you to remember about the animals. They speak about that later too. So I want you to remember that too. History records that the Edomites were ravaged by the Babylonian armies in the early 6th century BC. Same time around that prophecy was talking about. And the near end of the 6th century BC, the nabateans also attacked the Edomites, driving them from their mountain fortress of Mount Seir unto Negev, the desert to the west. The history books tell us that Edom did okay for perhaps 100 years after their final warning from God's prophets. Then, during the 5th century BC, which is 400 to 499 BC, the Edomites were overwhelmed by other Arab groups. In turn, these groups were taken over by the nabateans, who started living in the area sometime around 312 BC. By the way, the nabateans, not the Edomites, are the people who cut the temples in the sandstone walls of Petra. So let me continue. The ancient prophecies against Edom were completely fulfilled, and there is no need to look for those prophecies to be fulfilled again today, especially since the Edomites no longer exist as an identifiable nation or ethnic group. Some say, are not Arabs the Edomites? And does not the curse of Esau rest upon modern Arabs? Though the identification of Edom with the Arabs is a common traditional belief, there is absolutely no scriptural or historical basis for this notion. The Arabs are often mentioned in the Old Testament as a nation totally distinct from the Edomites. For instance, in the chronicler mentions Edom in 2 Chronicles chapter 8 verse 17, and Arabia in 2 Chronicles chapter 9 verse 14. The Edomites were not Arabs. They were Edomites. Obadiah prophesied that the house of Esau would be completely wiped out. If he was talking about the Arabs, then Obadiah's prophecy was false, since the Arabs are very much with us today. If Obadiah was talking about Edom, like he said he was in verse 8, then this prophecy has been fulfilled, since Edom has long since disappeared as a nation. An explanation of the hatred reference works yields no hint or nor evidence of any connection between Edomites and Arabs. If the Edomites are not Arabs, then what did happen to them? We find the answer of that in the Antiquities of the Jews by the reliable ancient Jewish historian Josephus, writing of Jewish conquest in the 2nd century BC. He basically says, Hyrcanus took also Dora and Marissa, cities of Idumea, and subdued all the Idumeans, and permitted them to stay in that country if they would circumcise their genitals, and make use of the laws of the Jews. And they were so desirous of living in the country of their forefathers that they submitted to the use of circumcision and the rest of the Jewish ways of living, at which time, therefore, this befell them that they were hereafter no other than Jews.